Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to channel Ask Dra. My name is Duncan and I am happy to welcome you here once again. Now, there's a company in Kenya called Crown Bus, and there's a very huge news that was going on or is still going on in our media platforms as we speak. The US Treasury Department has sanctioned that company amongst many other companies in Uganda, in Somalia and in the UAE. And the accusation is that there's enough reasons to believe that they're engaged in a financial crime called money laundering. Guys, this is not the kind of information that I will sit without giving my opinion about it. And you know the right place to get this kind of information is here. Now today, I want to take a step to explain to you what money laundering is and some of the ways in which the companies that are engaged in money laundering actually carry out this vice, and of course some of the impacts that it has on an economy, especially a young and vulnerable economy like the Kenyan economy and the larger East African economies. But before I do that, something very interesting is happening to this channel, guys. Over the last few weeks, there has been a tremendous growth. I actually can't believe that we are almost hitting 2,000 followers. When I started this channel, I didn't know how much hungry people are for knowledge. I thought, let me just continue putting out information, but I didn't think people will warm up to knowledge like they are doing on this platform. And therefore, I feel encouraged and I thank you all for becoming my subscribers. Now, for all the people who will watch this video for the first time, please join the rest and become members of the army of smart people. That is how we call ourselves. I'm the captain of the army of smart people. And I'm asking you that don't leave this channel without subscribing and without sharing and without liking. Because we are taking our space in this kind of area and we are going to influence opinions. We are going to influence decisions by informing the public what they need to know. And today is not an exception. Today, I have lined up for you a very interesting conversation about money laundering. So guys, what is money laundering? Money laundering is just one of financial crimes that you all know. It is where people try to move money across borders illegally. Guys, I don't think you guys understand how hard it is to move money across borders. You can make a lot of money in a foreign country, but moving that money to your country becomes the biggest headache you can ever experience. Why? Because you can't do it alone. You can't do it without needing people in the system, both government system. You need people who have legitimate businesses operating in both countries. You need a whole system for you to be able to move that money, especially if it is a significant amount of money. Now, if you think that thing is hard, imagine someone committing a crime. People who want to move proceeds of criminal activities. That makes it even twice harder. And therefore, money laundering is one of the ways in which criminal money moves across borders. There are so many criminal activities, guys. Corruption is an economic crime. Yeah? Corruption is an economic crime because you are robbing people of their hard-earned money and you're moving it to another country. Yeah, we have things like terrorism. Terrorism is funded across the world from different areas. There are people who fund terrorism, but they are not located in the countries which terrorist attacks are being made. But for them to facilitate those processes, they have to move the money. They have to supply money to those people, so that they can buy loyalty to the guys who are joining terrorist groups. But how do they fund those groups without moving that money? Yeah, we have things like, of course, drugs, people dealing in drugs. You sell a lot of drugs in a foreign country, but you can't spend that money. You need to take that money back home so that you can legitimize it. Yeah, we have people engaged in wars, people funding wars. You know, wars, there are people who gain out of them. And because of that, they will want to fund those wars so that the wars don't come to an end, so that the wars continue. So because of that, that money has to move. But how do you make that money move? A while back, they would use the actual process of carrying money in lorries and move them across borders. But now, what if the countries that you're trying to take that money, they are not across each other. They're not close to each other. You have to move money overseas. How will you be able to do that? Now, in the world that we live in, there are two financial systems that exist. A financial system is just that whole organization that makes money move legitimately from one country to another to enable trading activities. But in the world that we live in, there are two types. We have the global financial system, which is the real one, the actual one, the recognized one, the lawful one. And then we have the offshore financial system, which is illegal, it's illegitimate, but it's very significant and it is huge. And a lot of money moves across the world through the offshore financial system, unknown to so many of us. And so many people who are engaged in money laundering are using the offshore financial system to move finances, to move money. Now, but today I want us to focus more on the advanced ways in which money launderers are finding to move money from one country to another. These advanced ways are ways which are disguised as legitimate trading activities. So they pretend like they are exporting legitimate commodities. They pretend that they're making payments to legitimate transactions, and yet within those transactions, they are actually criminal money moving, or they are actually criminal commodities moving within those transactions. And someone will ask me, but how are they able to do this, yet these systems are supposed to protect this kind of activities? Guys, when a movement of money is disguised as a legitimate trading activity, when you can see commodities have moved and there are documents to show that these commodities are legal, it becomes very hard to differentiate a legitimate trade with an illegitimate one. It is not very hard, and I can understand why sometimes this money manages to move. Now guys, let us see 5 of the ways that these people have been using to carry out these trading activities. Now, you all understand that a trading activity, for business to happen, there's usually the commodity being transacted and the money aspect. Yeah? How do you demand for payment? You demand for payment from using invoices. Yeah? So it is that invoice that is the major document that people misuse for them to move money. Once a commodity has moved, you invoice. But who determines that the invoice amount is the right amount as compared to the value of the goods being moved? While there are ways in which you can be able to protect that, they are not bulletproof. They are not completely enough to safeguard crimes being committed. So what these people do is they will set up a company in Kenya, and then they set up another company in the US. So the money they want to move is to move from the US to Kenya. The Kenyan company will export commodities to the US company, but the Kenyan company will over-invoice. They will over-invoice. So the commodities moving from Kenya to the US is worth 100,000. The actual value is 100,000. But when the Kenyan company will be invoicing that US company, they will not invoice 100,000. They will invoice almost 200,000 to say the 200,000 is the value of those commodities. Now, unless you're engaged in that kind of business, unless you do that kind of business, how will you know that that is not the actual value of those commodities? So when the US company makes payment, they'll make payments for 200,000, which is not the actual value of the commodities. So they have managed to move 100,000 into Kenya, which was not as a result of trading activities. And they can also do in the second way by under-invoicing. The guys in Kenya can also send the commodities to the US, but then when they send the invoices at only a value of 50,000, while the value of the goods is 100,000. But once the goods arrive in Kenya, this company can sell those commodities for the 100,000 and they will have made an extra 50,000. So through invoices, those are the 2 ways in which they do. The third one is something called multi-invoices. For multi-invoices, you are saying the Kenyan company will export to the US. When the Kenyan company sends invoices, it will not send one invoice. It will send like 5 or 6 invoices. So the US company will make payments using different banks. But you see, they have invoices to show that those are legitimate transactions. But they'll be making 6 payments for one transaction, and money will have already moved to Kenya. Another way they do it is by falsely describing the commodities they are moving. So the commodities they will move will be counterfeit goods of, let's say, luxury bags. So let's take a company like Gucci. So they'll move counterfeit Gucci bags, But when the payment is being done, they'll make the payment for legitimate value of Gucci bags. You see, while the goods were counterfeit, the money that has moved is the money that has moved for legitimate bags. They have therefore already moved that money to another country. They can also do something called over-shipment. So over-shipment is, while the documents show that you are shipping 1.5 tons, in reality you are shipping 2 tons. So the commodities that are moving are 2 tons, but the documents show you're moving 1.5 tons. So the 0.5 extra tons will be sold in the country and they'll be able to make that money. And then finally, we have something called phantom shipment. Phantom shipment is where you just ship an empty container and a payment is made for an empty container. So those are 5 ways. They are not everything. Guys, this industry or this kind of crimes, they're advanced. I'm just giving you some of the disguised ways in which these guys have been able to carry out money laundering. Yeah. And another time, I'm going to give you some of the effects of money laundering to the economy. And the most obvious one is that money laundering causes an oversupply in money. You see, money is determined, supply of money in an economy is only determined by the central bank. So when money comes into the economy where the central bank cannot attach it to a specific thing, either through exports, through production, legitimate productivity, or through foreign direct investments. Sorry guys, I have a cold and it's really working on me seriously, but work has to continue, yeah? Yeah, so what it does, it causes an significant increase in prices. So most of us are actually victims of money laundering. A lot of the commodities you see in our communities that are overpriced are as a result of money laundering activities. Because within the community, there are people who just have money and you can't explain where the money is coming from. Because they are trying to legitimize that money. And one of the ways to legitimize money is to get it to start circulating in the local economy as much as possible. But that will increase demand. But that is what is called artificial demand. Artificial demand causes a sudden increase in commodity prices, which cannot be backed by any actual demand from the larger population or the macroeconomy. So money laundering is a serious crime and you should not encourage it by any means. And if Crown Bus Company in East Africa is involved in this kind of activity, then I'll be very disappointed. I am personally very disappointed because it's a bus company that has been in existence for a very long period of time. And if they have done that for the period of time that they have been in existence, guys. Now, I'll end my conversation there. I just wanted to let you know and welcome you into that kind of a conversation. Soon enough, we'll pick up the effects of money laundering on our economy, and I'll ask you to stick around, of course, until we see each other again for the next episode. Have a nice evening, wherever it is that you are, guys. Bye.